Summer 1943. The Italian island of Sardinia trembles as Allied bombers approach, casting shadows over barren fields already scarred by relentless bombings. The few remaining locals scramble to find cover as the sound of engines fills the sky. Suddenly, a sleek silhouette flashes overhead, darting with unprecedented speed toward the Allied squadron composed of P-51 Mustangs, P-47 Thunderbolts, and P-38 Lightnings. The Challenger's streamlined fuselage and enclosed cockpit cuts through the formation, leaving the pilots no choice but to scatter in the air as gunfire erupts from its 20mm cannons and 12.7mm machine guns. The P-38 Lightnings dive in to intercept, but their enemy is too fast, climbing with a sharp ascent, then pivoting back down to cut through the Allied formation once more as it opens fire. The pilots dodge to avoid the hits, barely escaping as the sleek Predator flies past them. It has become clear this is no ordinary aircraft. Their rival is faster and more agile than any plane they've encountered before. In fact, this may just be the most dangerous Axis Predator they've encountered in the air. This is the Fiat G55 Centauro, and it's coming for them. By the start of World War II, European air forces were scrambling to develop aircraft capable of asserting dominance in the skies. The Italians found themselves in a particularly difficult situation. As the war broke out, much of their air fleet was outdated, and their aircraft were unequipped to counter the growing threat of Allied air power. Italian engineers realized that if they hoped to compete for control of the skies, they needed to rethink their entire approach to aircraft design. This meant abandoning the radial engines used in earlier fighters, such as the Fiat G50 Freccia and Mach-E C200 Saetta, in favor of more advanced inline engines. These engines allowed for higher speeds, greater agility, and superior climb rates, giving Italian fighters a chance to stand toe-to-toe with their Allied counterparts. Among the engines that drew Italy's attention were the liquid-cooled Daimler-Benz designs, which had already proven their potential by turning aircraft like the German Messerschmitt Bf 109 into some of the most feared fighters in the Luftwaffe. Italian manufacturers licensed the Daimler-Benz DB605A1 to capitalize on this technology, setting the foundation for their next generation of high-performance fighters. In Turin, aerospace engineer Giuseppe Gabrielli, who had previously designed notable aircraft like the G50 Freccia, took the lead on Italy's aircraft transformation. He envisioned a new family of fighters that would blend aerodynamic efficiency, speed, firepower, and durability into a single plane. His work culminated in the creation of the Serie A5 fighters, which included an aircraft unlike anything Italy had seen before, the Fiat G55 Centauro. In the Centauro, Gabrielli crafted a streamlined airframe to ensure both stability at high speeds and superior maneuverability. This fighter was armed with 3 20mm cannons and 2 12.7mm machine guns, strategically mounted on the nose and wings to create a concentrated field of fire, capable of shredding both enemy bombers and fighters alike. Its enclosed cockpit provided pilots with enhanced visibility, while also offering protection at high altitudes. The G55's full-metal frame gave it the structural integrity to withstand heavy combat damage during intense dogfights, while its retractable landing gear allowed the aircraft to operate from rough, improvised airfields. Powered by a licensed version of the German Daimler-Benz design, the Centauro blended Italian craftsmanship with German engineering, resulting in an aircraft that could compete with the most advanced fighters the Allies had to offer, reaching a top speed of 390 miles per hour and an operational ceiling of 41,000 feet. The G55 took to the skies for its first flight in 1942, immediately proving to be an exceptional piece of aerial warcraft. During testing, it even outperformed some of Germany's most advanced fighters. When Luftwaffe test pilots evaluated the Centauro, they were so impressed with its performance that they declared it the best Axis fighter, rating it above their own Messerschmitt Bf 109. Although Italy fielded other high-performance fighters, such as the Mach-E C202 Folgore and the Reggiano RE 2005 Sagittario, these aircraft had notable limitations. The Sagittario was more expensive to produce due to its intricate design, while the Folgore suffered from performance issues at high altitudes, particularly above 26,000 feet, where Allied bombers like the B-17 Flying Fortress operated. Additionally, the C-202's light armament couldn't match the G-55 Centauro's superior firepower, making the Centauro better suited for intercept missions and engagements with heavily armored bombers. Recognizing the superior capabilities of the G-55, Italian military officials authorized the production of 2,400 units of the Centauro. However, this optimistic goal would soon prove a significant challenge. Although Germany initially planned to transfer production of the G-55 Centauro to its own factories to ensure a more efficient process, it ultimately had to abandon this plan. Faced with growing demand for their frontline fighters, the German industry could not afford to divert resources toward producing Italian fighters. In Italy, production endured even greater challenges. The country struggled with severe material shortages caused by wartime restrictions, and Allied bombing campaigns disrupted manufacturing after taking down factories and supply chains. These issues delayed the mass production of the G-55, and by 1943, only 19 units had been completed. Despite production setbacks, the G-55 was assigned to the 353rd Squadriglia in mid-1943. Its first combat deployment came in June, when the squadron was dispatched to Sardinia to assist in the defense of the island against escalating Allied bombardments. The newly deployed G-55s were tasked with intercepting Allied bombers and escort fighters, engaging in intense aerial combat despite facing larger Allied squadrons. Though few in number, the G-55s demonstrated their firepower and agility in these encounters, earning respect from both Italian and German pilots. For the remainder of the summer of 1943, the G-55 fiercely defended Italian airspace. It took part in operations over Rome and engaged numerous American and British bombers, demonstrating its firepower and maneuverability to both enemies and allies. The G-55 quickly earned a reputation as one of the most formidable aircraft in the Italian arsenal, capable of holding its own even against advanced Allied fighters. However, these early G-55 missions were cut short. In July 1943, Benito Mussolini was deposed in a coup, and Italy's political situation quickly stumbled. The signing of the Armistice of Cassibile in September 1943 marked Italy's formal surrender to the Allies, throwing the country's military forces into disarray. With Italian squadrons fractured and production facilities falling under Allied control in the south, the future of the G-55 became uncertain. After Nazi forces freed Benito Mussolini in mid-September, he established the Italian Social Republic in northern Italy. Alongside this new regime, a new air force was formed, the Aeronautica Nazionale Repubblicana, also known as ANR. Recognizing the immense potential of the G-55 Centauro to bolster Axis efforts in a war that was quickly shifting in the Allies' favor, the ANR didn't waste time in reintroducing their star aircraft into active service, now operating alongside the Luftwaffe and with production taking place in Fiat's factory in Turin. Despite facing limited resources and logistical challenges, ANR pilots took to the skies, determined to continue the fight. The G-55 squadrons were deployed in intercept missions against the waves of Allied bombers targeting Milan, Turin, and other key industrial areas. These missions were essential in defending what little remained of Italy's war production infrastructure, which had become a primary target for the Allied air campaign. ANR pilots quickly proved their exceptional skill in combat, engaging in dogfights against advanced Allied fighters such as the P-51 Mustang and the Supermarine Spitfire. Despite being outnumbered, they succeeded in consolidating a mighty resistance. Hoping to shift the course of the war, the Italians designed more powerful variants of the G-55, including the G-56, equipped with a Daimler-Benz DB603 engine that enabled it to reach speeds of 430 miles per hour. Another variant, the G-55S, was developed as a torpedo bomber. However, neither of these upgraded versions would enter production or see combat during the war. The continued Allied bombing campaigns and the increasing dominance of the Allies in the air meant that the ANR's efforts could not continue for much longer. By late 1944, with supply lines cut and production incapacitated, even the most skilled ANR pilots could no longer stem the tide of Allied air superiority. In September 1944, 1 year after the formation of Mussolini's Italian Social Republic, the remaining aircraft at Fiat's factories were left abandoned, many in various stages of completion. ANR units continued to operate the G-55 until supplies were exhausted, forcing them to transition to the German Bf-109s, despite pilots preferring the G-55's superior handling and performance. Following the surrender of Axis forces in Italy, in May 1945, the G-55's brief wartime service came to an end, unable to fulfill its potential to dominate the skies. After the war, Fiat resumed production of unfinished G-55 units, which were delivered to the newly formed Aeronautica Militare Italiana, also known as AMI, to serve in advanced training roles. The aerospace company went on to develop several new versions of the aircraft, including the G-55A, a single-seat model, and the G-55B, a two-seat variant that made its first flights in 1946. During the post-war years, demand for G-55 persisted, but given that the original licensed DB605 engines were in limited supply, Fiat developed a new version, the G-59, equipped with a Rolls-Royce Merlin engine. The G-59 was commissioned for both the Italian and the Argentine Air Force. The operational life of the G-55 extended to Egypt, where it was used in air combat against Israeli Air Force Avia 199s during the 1948 War of Independence. Syria also acquired a fleet of 30 G-59s to strengthen its air force. However, the aircraft service in the Syrian Air Force was short-lived, as it was soon replaced by more modern aircraft. The prototype of the discarded G-55S torpedo variant also survived the war, and upon being converted back to a Series 1 standard, it was re-entered into service with the AMI at the Lecce Flying School in 1950, under the designations G-59-1A and G-59-1B. These models served primarily in pilot training roles, helping Italy transition into the jet age by preparing pilots for more advanced aircraft. In 1951, Giuseppe Gabrielli, the mastermind behind the G-55 Centauro, went on to develop the Fiat G80. Continuing with the legacy of the G-55, this new model broke ground in aviation by becoming the first Italian turbojet aircraft designed to meet the training requirements of the AMI. Despite being one of the finest fighters Italy produced during the war, the G-55 Centauro simply arrived too late. It took to the skies when Allied forces had firmly established air superiority, leaving little room for new aircraft to make a decisive impact. Only around 300 units of the G-55 were built, a stark contrast to the tens of thousands of Mustangs, Spitfires, and Bf-109s that rolled off Allied and Axis production lines. Even under immense pressure from all fronts, Italian engineers managed to produce a fighter capable of competing with the best aircraft of their opponents. Though it arrived too late to change the outcome of the war, the Centauro paved the way for the future of aerospace innovation, influencing post-war designs that would help Italy re-establish itself as a significant player in the aviation industry. While many G-55 models have been lost over the years, a few examples have survived and are carefully preserved today. One notable example can be found at the Museo Storico dell'Aeronautica Militare in the Lazio region of Italy, where it serves as a reminder of the plane that almost became one of the best fighters of World War II.